Good morning, everyone. I'd like to start this morning by acknowledging that the TNRD connects with many First Nation communities across our vast regional district. And today we are located on the Tk'emlúps to Secwépemc territory, situated within the unceded ancestral lands of the Secwépemc Nation. The TNRD appreciates the partnership that we have with the Tk'emlúps to Secwépemc and respect the territory and land on which we gather today. Are there any additions or deletions from the agenda? Seeing none, I'll call a motion for an approval of the agenda as presented. Moved by Councillor Hall, second by Councillor Director Grenier. All in favor? Contrary minded? Seeing none, that's passed. Thank you. We have a set of minutes in front of us from April 22nd. Needing a motion? Sorry, Director Kersley, sorry, thank you. Second by Director Thorpe. And all in favor? Contrary minded? Seeing none, thank you. Okay, we will move into our only report of the day, which is 5.1, and I will ask General Manager Bennett to come to the table. Or it looks like Davies. Sorry, I'm just reading off the agenda that was given to me. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you, Chair. General Manager Bennett Arrieta is away today, so we don't have a report to summarize this, but just kind of a quick verbal update, comments from me and Marnie. So at the last meeting, we had brought forward the results of the survey and a fact sheet. And the committee requested us as staff to go back to the EA directors and ask what they would like to see specifically in their areas and their satisfaction with geographic boundaries in particular. So we had 7 out of 10 directors respond with the week's kind of headway notice, and comments were nothing that would make it clear and obvious that lets us staff recommend this to you as a committee. There was comments about certain things of, maybe this area, this road in my area could be in a different electoral area. Generally, the comments were, I think my area is well served when we heard back from the electoral area directors. Thank you to those we heard back from. And then the other part was just adding to the fact sheet. This was probably a bit more time and research that staff spent with the voting units and the voting structures, comparing each regional district. And again, we went away from that, and it was interesting to compile it. We put in kind of a summary in the report, and then there was a page in the fact sheet that was updated, which is on the screen right now, explaining some of the key differences that we found, or maybe some of the key highlights of comparing and contrasting to all the other 26 other regional districts and their voting units, their composition, their municipal directors versus electoral area, weighted voting, what their largest community has for votes, a percentage of votes compared to their percentage of population. So that's in there, and hopefully everyone's had a chance to review that. So now we're just looking for direction from this committee. And I think Marnie will have some comments too. And I know we had this in a slide before when we presented the survey findings at the last meeting. Now it's a recommendation in this report on whether the committee would like to put this on pause or provide clear direction on a geographic area we should be looking at, whether looking to expand our boundaries with another part of another regional district or multiple. It wouldn't look at municipal boundaries. That's not our ability to do. But we could look at our existing, the way our electoral area boundaries are drawn, if that's the committee's desire, or if the committee wanted to look at the voting structure and the way that's currently set out, and if that wanted to be reviewed. There is money, as it's shown, I think it's just over $50,000 that's available. That was in this year's overall TNRD budget for a review. But we would need a clear direction on what we should be engaging with the province and any other neighboring jurisdictions on. And I don't know if Marnie had anything to add.
Thank you, Fulton. I do want to address that we will be going into a local general election next year. So October 17th, 2026 will be the date that has been established for voting day. Something to consider is whether or not this is going to impact the candidacy of the elections for the electoral areas. If we do amend the boundaries, we would have to do that relatively quickly in advance of the election and any type of information that we would be sending out to future potential candidates.
Thank you for those comments from staff. Certainly, I think we're going to have some good discussion around this table here this morning, and there is no definitive direction one way or another. And certainly, I would like to open up to this committee to hear comments in general. And we will start with Director Onslow.
Thank you. Thank you for that. And thank you very much to the staff for all of the work that you guys have put into this process so far. When we started this boundary review committee, it was confusing to me and as a new director, and I wasn't certain what the intention was of moving forward with this process. And I feel that we are still in a state of confusion and not entirely knowing what we're going to do moving forward. And do we have a problem? Because we haven't been able to clearly define a problem at this point. My opinion on this is that we do not move forward with this committee, that we don't push it to the next board of directors. And the reason for that is I feel that we will put ourselves in the exact same state that we were in when we started this committee. We don't know exactly what it is we want to accomplish with it. And I do feel that when there is a problem that arises, the elected officials of the time will be able to come up with the solution. Knowing that the government is looking at how electoral areas are governed right now, that will be a very long process. And I don't believe it's in our best interest to try to get ahead of that. We don't know who will be joining this table in the future and what that looks like, but the directors of that future time will be able to have a better understanding. So I know that the weighted votes has come up, and I don't know how to address that. And if people have other opinions on weighted votes, perhaps there is a way that this committee could look at that or not. Like right now, I feel that our wheel is working and that we should consider stopping this process. So I look forward to what other people have to say on it. Okay.
Thank you, Director Onslow. Anybody else would like to speak to this? I'm assuming some people probably do. Okay, Director Laird.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. At the SILGA meeting, we sat and listened to the lawyers, I can't remember his name now, I should remember that, discuss the governance part of our all regional districts. And it's being presented to UBCM to start working with the provincial government on looking at the governance of the regional districts now. The only thing I could see doing with this board is having a discussion around, obviously, the most contentious issue is weighted vote, because everything has changed so much since the original legislation was put into creating the regional districts. Populations have changed, and it's needs to be reviewed, but I'm not a firm believer in trying to get ahead of the curve, because you might be on the wrong end of the curve and be going the wrong way. And I would prefer to let the legislation go through the way it's been presented. It's not going to be a fast process, no matter what you do. And it's nothing can change unless the provincial government accepts and relooks at the basic governments of regional districts. So I would prefer just to let this drop until we hear more back especially from UBCM after they make the presentation this year. I think that'd be advantageous, and I think the 2026 relook is a good idea. Thank you.
Thank you for those comments. And certainly, I think all of us, or most of us, were at SILGA and focused in on, it was Council Lidstone, I believe, right, from his firm, and obviously an expert in municipal law. And it became pretty clear that there's lot of concerns that it's around the province. It's not just a TNRD conversation about where RDs are moving in the future. And the provincial government seems to be understanding and listening finally after the better part of 40 years, I believe, is when the last time this was updated. So that's a positive. My personal thoughts, and this isn't speaking as chair, I think when we initially got into this with the previous board and even through this, we'd always said, you know, whatever happens, it's going to be a long journey. And we didn't know where this was going to go. I think it was worth exploring and having this conversation. You know, from what I see in front of us right now, and what I feel as a board holistically for the TNRD, that there really seems to be a divisiveness between EA directors and municipal directors. And I don't want to inflame that any more than potentially what there is right now. I believe that there was underlying thoughts that maybe we're trying to peel EAs off or not, or merge, and which wasn't the intent. But that narrative is sometimes hard to control. I do believe and firmly believe we are better together with the EAs and the municipalities working together as closely as we can, not on us versus them, but what can we accomplish as a group, because we can do very good things. And I don't want this to be a pinch point to not allow that holistic relationship to happen between both sides. So that being said, I think it's worthy for the next board to have a conversation, and whether they decide to kill the committee or not. This has gone through 2 different boards now. It's out there, and who knows if the provincial government has more on the RDs at the time. But I'm not comfortable making a recommendation from this committee to the board to spend more money to try and figure out what to do. I think, as Director Laird said, we don't want to be ahead of the curve, but there are changes going, and this conversation, I think, has been very healthy amongst municipal directors and EA directors sitting here discussing our thoughts. And I think it was valuable, and I think it would be to a future board. And I wouldn't want the work that we put into this to just disappear. I would like that to at least be a discussion point for the next board. So that's just my thoughts. Who's next would like to speak? Any directors? Director Thorpe.
Thank you, Chair. So speaking a little bit to the legislative reform, there is a letter that is being sent to UBCM on behalf of all the executive boards of the 5 BC area associations, asking that this legislative reform be part of their work plan. So there is a movement afoot. And I would agree with Director Laird and with Director Onslow that maybe we don't want to start doing something that we may have to backtrack on without knowing what's happening here. So my personal opinion right now is that this has been a bit confusing, trying to figure out exactly what we're doing, and there still seems to be no clear direction. So I would be in favor of just setting this aside until such time as it needs to be resurrected. And frankly, I'm not sure if 26 we need to resurrect it then. I don't think the work will be put aside. We know that we've got it, but until we actually have clearer direction, I would think that we might want to dissolve this for the time being. Just my thoughts.
Thank you for that, Director Thorpe. Director Houghton.
Thank you, Chair. Just my thoughts on this is, and I think you dwelled on it, Chair O'Reilly, is over the time here, we have felt a bit of maybe a breakaway, or that's not the right word, but maybe a lack of communication between the EAs and the municipal leaders that we have around the table, and that's not a healthy situation. But I think I just look at the city of Kamloops and the so-called 3 fringe area directors. I don't like that term fringe, but the 3 outlying directors that surround it. You know, I look at that is you and I talked a few minutes ago about a project that you're doing in town and how we can possibly participate, Chair O'Reilly, and that's, to me, what we have to do. We're all here for the goodness of our citizens, but electoral area directors, and especially the ones closest to a major municipality, have to have a great working relationship or we're doomed. We're all doomed. And it's not healthy. It's not healthy politics to have us infighting over some usually silly financial things. So I think it was good that we had this discussion and maybe just put it on the shelf until we know exactly where we're going. But I did enjoy investigating the thoughts, and I think it brought this board closer together, and I mean that between the EA directors and especially the city of Kamloops. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Houghton. Director Morris.
Thank you. I did all my homework in advance on the reading and have come to, if we think about the change, if I just used Area P as the example, where the growth has occurred, it's, we use the term fringe areas. In reality, it's really, we are encompassing a much broader area now. So if you even look at the Area P and what the resident growth is in particular, and where the future is headed in terms of density within Area P, I see certainly need of a stronger role even for the electoral areas. There's no question about that. And having said that, if we were to land on one side or the other about are we going to rush ahead right now and make wholesale changes versus are we going to give this some more time and some more thought, my sense for Area P would be that we would let's take that more steady road, as it were. I would think that would be a good way to go. Having said that, I'll throw in the midst of that I do believe that an area such as large as Area P, with the growth that it's happening, and with some of the differences that are occurring. So, for example, if I was just to say, and I'm not targeting specifically, but north of McClure, all the way up there, it's still part of Area P, and yet it's seeing growth, it's seeing change. Is it aligned specifically, or is it these fringe areas we're talking about that really, are directly aligned versus some of the other communities? So all of that wrap up to say, I think we're sort of still on number one in terms of the approach that we may want to take, but use the time as directors to really start looking at that 10-year vision again, and get the word fringe out of the dialogue if possible.
Thank you, Director Morris. Any other comments from directors around the table? Director R. Smith.
Thank you, Chair. I think, first of all, I think this has definitely been a useful process, giving us all an opportunity to have conversations we may not have otherwise had. And I think that our diversity is our strength. I think we're a board of many, which can be a very good thing for all of us. And I think we need to use that to our advantage. And saying that, I actually didn't realize there was a governance review happening for regional districts. So that's good information to have. And I think it'll be interesting to see what comes from that review. Because having just been through Area P and looking at the size and the diversity and like my thought was the lack of service actually in that area. And obviously it's up to the residents what service levels they want. So I'm not the one to speak to that. But having been through, it was like, wow, like we really are incredibly diverse in how we serve people and, you know, just terrain in general. So we're unique, and I think we need to use that. And I'd be interested to see how the review goes. So I think I would echo the words that have already been said around the table. Thank you.
Okay, I think we've exhausted comment. Director Kersley, would you like to speak? No? Okay. Are you sure? Yeah. Okay, you're close? Okay. Uh, Thank you. So in front of us, we have two recommendations. We've had some fairly good dialogue around here on both of them and potentially a third option as well. So I guess I'd like to look, if somebody wants to make a motion at this point with what's in front of us, or potentially make a different recommendation. And at that point, we may look to staff for guidance on how to proceed. Director Thorpe.
Could I make a motion that isn't here, that we, let me just see how I'd want to word this. That the committee recommend that the board of directors, that the governance and boundary review committee be dissolved until such time as, help me out here. Until such time as the need arises for a future review?
Thank you for that initiative. And I just want to clarify back through staff, dissolve versus suspend or postpone, so that it's still living somewhere that if somebody wants to call it back. So if you could provide the proper wording for this motion. Thank you, Director Thorpe. Director Jeremiah, or Manager Jeremiah.
Thank you. I would recommend that we postpone until such time. I do want to address as well, not to change any motions or direction on anything, but we do have a new census coming in 2026 as well. So even with the new board, it might be something that would be worth looking into or discussing at that time. So I'll leave it to the directors to finalize their decision.
Okay, so let's change that word to postpone then, please. Because I'm not sure if we're going to want to start again in the fall of 26 just yet. Thanks.
So right now we have a motion on the floor that has not been seconded. We have a seconder. Director Onslow and Director Smith to speak. Director Smith.
Thank you. I was just a little bit unclear on the motion and just wondering if we should incorporate something about the governance review that's happening in the motion, so we see what happens from that before we move forward. Thank you.
Manager Jeremiah.
So would you, that the committee recommend the board of directors, that the committee be postponed until such time that a governance review has been completed by UBCM?
Can I,
Just 1 second, Director Thorpe. Director Smith has the table right now. If she's done, then we will go to you next. Director Smith.
Sorry, is that through federal government or is it through the UBCM that's happening?
okay,
Director
so
Thorpe.
I sit on that. It's legislative reform. It's an ad hoc working group. It hasn't formally happened yet. So what's happening right now is we're looking at asking UBCM to add it to their work plan, and we have put in a session submission to UBCM on it. So it hasn't formally happened as yet. So we may not want to put that in there, just as a side note.
Thank you for the clarity. Appreciate it.
Thank you. So we do have a motion on the floor that's been moved by Director Thorpe, second by Director Onslow. Discussion on the motion on the floor. Seeing no discussion, we'll call the vote. All in favor of the motion? Opposed? Seeing none, that's passed. Thank you. Director Jeremiah, or Manager Jeremiah.
Just to clarify, so we are postponing until 2026? Like, and, until such time, but you had also mentioned that it might be worthwhile to reconvene in 2026. Okay, so we are just postponing until such time that the board determines there's a need to reconvene.
Chooses to read.
Correct.
Yep.
And I think that was given to the fact that they're really don't know when this is actually going to happen. So it's better to leave it open, is my understanding from the will of the mover. Thank you. Okay, any new business? No? Seeing none, this meeting's adjourned. Thank you.